From Brands Hatch to the beach, welcome to the Adriatic coast, welcome to Misano. This, the second event within Fanatec GT World Challenge Europe, powered by AWS Sprint Cup. And it's been quite a long break since the first two races in the UK. But this weekend, we are in very high temperatures and a record grid. 42 cars set to do battle around the Misano circuit, a very different type of track from the one we had in Kent, because here it's faster, it's flatter, and it's much, much warmer. It's going to be a real fight, not only for the overall honours, but in gold, silver and a rejuvenated bronze category as well, which has got a very healthy entry. The pro category is wide open this weekend, and inevitably there's an awful lot of attention surrounding Italian drivers and Italian cars. The new Ferrari 296, for example, run by Emil Frey Racing, comes here with good aero and a very good chance of a win, especially in the hands of Giacomo Altway.
It's my home race here in Misano. I'm really excited to race here, so I'm really looking forward. Brands Hatch was really good, especially on qualifying. We were P3, and then in the races we had some issues during the pit stop, but the results are promising for this race weekend, and we will push to the maximum.
The Misano circuit doesn't hold the best of memories for Adrian Delina. 2 years ago he was here, ran wide over the sausage curbs, and not only damaged his car, but badly damaged his back, and he's hoping for better fortunes this year.
No, for sure we don't have the best memories here. I think it's also been a track that, like you said before, suits Audi and Mercedes a little bit better than us. I do think coming in with the new car, we have a bit better of an aero package. It's suiting us a little bit better than last year. So really hoping forward that we can build on what we started in Brands Hatch, where we could have finished fourth, and hopefully build on and get some points this weekend.
The Gold Cup is another very competitive class, looking at the young guns of international GT racing. Aurelian Panis and Alberto Di Folco are at the top of the championship after the first two races in the UK.
It's a very good season, and I'm very proud to be here after a lot of years in Italian GT. And today Aurelian made Q1, we are P12 overall and P2 of God, so we are looking forward to make a good race, and I'm very focused and motivated because this is home race. I'm from Rome, not so far, so I'm quite happy to be here.
Second in the Gold Cup, just a point behind Panis and Di Folco, is the BMW, driven by Nicholas Cruton and Cullen Williams.
It's a really close battle so far. I mean, we've only had the one round so far at Brands Hatch for the Sprint Cup, but it's looking like it's going to be a really tough fight for who's going to take top honours at the end of the year.
In the Silver Cup, there's more variety in terms of the brands represented on the grid. Take, for example, the Honda NSX of Owen Zanotti.
Feeling here in Misano, it's fantastic. We are pushing to the limit, trying to give our best performance possible. And it's our home race, so we will be happy just to finish it, I think.
Second in the Silver Cup is Jordan Love, aboard one of the many Mercedes AMG GT3s on the grid. And he knows that 2 race wins here would be a real catapult in the championship to move him and Frank Bird to the top of the standings.
Brands Hatch was good for us. Wasn't the cleanest weekend. There was definitely a lot that could have been better. So, yeah, look, to come into Misano this weekend where we are in the championship, it's nice, but yeah, we're still aiming for that top spot. So we've got some work to do this weekend, and it's obviously still early on in the championship.
This weekend, there's a really strong entry within the Bronze Cup. You can have a platinum driver in that as long as they are with a bronze. And all attention on the only female racer on the grid, Saudi Arabian Rima Jafali.
I think my first few laps out here, I was like a bit too eager. And I think that kind of is something that it catches you out. And so it is about, being patient, but also making sure that you're in the right place on track. And I think now with a day under my belt, I feel like it's something I have a good feeling.
Sun is shining, grid is building, temperatures are going up. Welcome everybody to the first of 2 races this weekend, one today and one tomorrow, within Fanatec GT World Challenge Europe, powered by AWS Sprint Cup. It's going to be a really interesting race this, of course, partly to see how people cope with the heat, partly because of cars accelerating through from troublesome qualifyings like Silver Championship leader Lorenzo Petresi, who was in the gravel, didn't get a time and therefore starts at the back. But let's concentrate on the circuit first of all. David Addison and John Watson trackside, and John, it's a good lap this, it's fast and it's flat.
Yes, it is. At 16 turns, 4.2 kilometres. So go down into turn 8, up to 9, 10, down the back, dog leg straight into 14, then back through 15, and then 16 onto start, finish straight. And I've again managed to do an equal time to the tracker, which I think is a good effort.
You lap record for doing that. In terms of the track, a change made overnight. Those yellow banana sausage curbs have been taken away. We'll come to that in a moment, because before we go to discuss things in more detail, we better hear from one or two of the drivers first. Nicholas Bart, who drives Audi 12, is on the grid with Gemma Scott.
Nicholas, coming into the weekend, the stats said that the Audis would be fastest. You're the first Audi on the grid here, second row, of course. What's your expectations?
I mean, it will be a lie if it's not a podium. For sure, we will push as hard as we can and just bring a podium or even a win home.
We've been talking a lot about the heat here. It is very, very hot. It's an air temperature feeling like more like 37. It's up to about 60 degrees in the car. How are you guys coping?
Are you hot? No, I don't feel anything.
That's because you've had an ice cold towel on your head.
Maybe. Yeah, no, for sure it's pretty hot. So if it's hot for us, it's even hotter in the car. So I think people are quite lucky to be behind their coach or on their coach watching the race. But yeah, it's acceptable.
Have a great race. Thank you very much. Go keep cool.
Thank you very much.
John, quick word about these track limits and these curbs.
Yes, last night at 10 to 8 to be precise, a message came through from the FIA. They decreed that the sausage curbs at turns 1 and 2 and 15 and 16 must be removed with immediate effect, and that was a very late call, and I haven't been given certainly the reason why, but inevitably there's a very good reason behind it. Remember, this is a dual-purpose racetrack. It's motorcycles and car racing. So it makes a small change, of course, by taking those sausage curbs out, invites drivers to use or abuse track limits even more.
So Giacomo Altwe outside of the front row of the grid. The drivers that you've seen on the grid, out of the cars, of course, are able to disrobe to a degree, whereas in the cars they're getting hotter and hotter and hotter. They've been strapped in, they've had a lap or maybe two rounds to the grid, and then they're sitting there and they are getting hotter and hotter and hotter. Yeah,
it's just a massive heat soak when the car is warm anyway. And when the car comes to a standstill, if you're a mid-front engine car like Valentino's BMW, you're looking at number 46, the heat is coming from the front. If you're in a Ferrari, as we saw on the front row of the grid with Giacomo Altwe, the heat's coming from behind, and just gradually that heat soaks into the driver's cockpit. And if you're a mid-front engine car, you've got to deal with either exhaust systems or turbo systems, which are going to be threaded somewhere in and around the whole packaging of a modern GT3 car. There's the Mercedes on pole position, AMG GT3. And because of the layout of this car, it's probably amongst the more comfortable of the mid-front engine GT cars.
Well, Raffaele Marciello, a 14th Sprint Cup pole position and a win and a 6th place at Brands Hatch. There is Valentino Rossi then. He will go first aboard BMW number 46. That is quite a long way back on the grid. The 12th row, 23rd on the grid when qualifying was done and all the track limits had been assessed. Right, the grid is now being cleared. Engines fire up on this 1 minute board. Of course, the leading car as it is will blast away and bring them round for the rolling start. And then we will be in business. Pit stops between 25 and 35 minutes. For the overall, for the golds and the silvers, they are a natural pit stop, as quick as you can pit stop, whereas in bronze, 77 seconds line to line is the regulation pit stop time. So there is the grid, and as ever, great variety amongst the brands that we have. Up front, Mercedes, Ferrari, McLaren, Audi, McLaren, Lamborghini, the top 6. Green flag is waved then, and so now the leading car, the Audi, blasts away, and on instruction, the race cars follow suit, having just let it escape a little bit, then they can catch up, get warmth into tyres and into brakes. Well, Gemma touched on it on the grid. All the statistics say this is an Audi venue, but let's find out whether that is going to be as true as history dictates. Raffaele Marciello is the man on pole position. Giacomo Altwe alongside him. Enrique Chavez, bronze graded car, is third on the grid. Excellent effort by him in qualifying ahead of Fred Vervisch, Nicolai Kiergaard and Loris Spinelli. Then we will have Gilles Magnus, the Gold Cup driver, alongside Dennis Marshall. Albert Costa lines up on the 5th row of the grid with Porsche specialist Arjen Guven for company. Christopher Mees comes next alongside Aurelian Panis, the gold championship leader, one win at Brands Hatch there. Lucas Legere is next alongside Jordan Love. Fabian Schiller in the FIBA Motorsport Mercedes has Franck Pereira for company. Norbert Siedler makes a welcome outing in Sprint Cup. And then the championship leader, Ricardo Feller, is only 18th on the grid. A lot of work to do there ahead of Dean McDonald and Adam Ateki. Charles Witt, however, starts 21st. Ezequiel Perez Companc is alongside him. Then Valentino Rossi and Pietro Deli Guanti. Nicholas Crutten's BMW Jim Plough's Mercedes are ahead of Sebastian Bode and Robert Renard. Next on the grid will be Christopher Zirkling in the Dynamique GT Porsche and Stephen Palette's very smart Comme-Renegar run car. Andrea Bertolini lines up alongside Jean-Baptiste Simonard. Paul Everard lines up alongside Leonardo Moncini in the Nova Race Honda. Then there is Yuki Nomoto lining up with the Singaporean driver Sean Hudspeth alongside. Adrian Delina, hoping for better fortunes than 2 seasons back, has Baptiste Moulin alongside him, and then Owen Zanotti and Nicola Recitano behind. And the back row of the grid, Lorenzo Petresi, who didn't get a lap time in. This is the silver championship leader. He put it in the gravel on his first flying lap, and Erwin Bastard didn't get out at all because of the need for an engine change. And other things that have changed, Watty, balance of performance.
Yes, balance of performance following qualifying. So Acura Honda get 10 kilograms, Relief, Audi get 5, BMW get a massive 15, but Ferrari have had to add 5. Lamborghini Evo get 10 and Porsche get 10. It's basically Mercedes and the McLarens that have stayed status quo.
Now, Enrique Chavez, apparently he's been telling Gemma that they've had to do a little tweak or two to try to get a bit more air in. The AM driver, Miguel Ramos, I should say, who's very experienced, was really struggling with the heat yesterday when they were doing free practice, and the temperatures are only going to go up and up and up, and he's going to be in the car in the hotter second stint.
Yeah, indeed, the car will be warm. Some of the cars have got to build an air conditioning system. For example, the WRT BMWs, I know, I've seen the seat, I've seen the system. It is a very, very sophisticated, and in the back of the seat, there's a lot of latticing in the back of the seat, which is where the cold or the chilled air from the air conditioning system. Valentino Rossi is probably enjoying it right now. So his core body will be being kept at a much lower temperature than many of his competitors around him.
Need one in here. The cars then now come out of the kink at turn 15, short straight down to the turn 16 left-hander, which is also named Misano, and then up towards the start of race 3 of the season in Fanatec GT World Challenge Europe, powered by AWS Sprint Cup. Fans in the grandstand are ready. Race director gives the instruction to change the lights to green, and Raffaele Marcello, blast away drama in the background. Big accident involving Spinelli. There's an Audi involved. We're going to go safety car straight away, I would have thought. Spinelli is off the racetrack, others litter the circuit. I think Enrique Chavez is involved in that in the McLaren.
Yeah, I think Chavez got hit. That spun him, turned him sharp left into the field, so we saw then the effect, the knock-on effect. So a number of cars went off in turn 1, other cars appeared to go off track coming to the exit of turn 3. So we're still waiting to see what race director is going to do as the field. Look at the field. We can see one of the cars at the very back. I think that was the Lamborghini that you spotted, Spinelli. So, wow. Well, trying to get 42 cars into one turn on the opening lap was always going to be a test. And I think at the minute, I have to say, they didn't pass the test.
Well, we did say in qualifying that the turn 1, 2, 3 S's is always a pinch point. It's also broken up the pack a bit, and I think there are others that survived it but have picked up damage. So we'll need to keep an eye on all of this, certainly to see which are the ones that are struggling at the end of the opening lap. So you're riding with Valentino Rossi, Charles Wirtz in the red BMW, his teammate just up the road as the cars accelerate to the end of the middle sector then. And Valentino Rossi has got a real traffic jam ahead of him.
Yeah, and he's on the outside going through this kink on the back straight. He's got a car just to his right as they come down into turn 13 into 14. Then the quick flick up to turn 15. And Marcello's already got that sort of, you might call it comfortable, half a second advantage. Well, I think that actually Enrique Chavez got through that, so he is running currently in 3rd place. So Myron Sheargard was the McLaren that got tagged.
Dead right. It was Sheargard who was involved in it, Loris Spinelli, Gilles Magnus was involved, and Dennis Marshall involved as well. So Marcello leads Altway at the end of the opening lap. 3rd is Chavez, 4th is Verviche, and 5th is a gap, really, because then you've got the second battle with 1.8 seconds separating 4th from 5th. Ancient Guven is best of the rest. But yeah, Nicolai Sheargard did recover to be 37th. Dennis Marshall, Loris Spinelli, Gilles Magnus, the ones really involved, and Spinelli and Magnus are crawling round, possibly to the pits.
So no flags, no yellow flags. Everybody has cleared that one, corner 1 and 2, as the field now comes through the exit of turn 6, that kink and 7. and then you can try to line up coming into turn 8, waiting to see if anybody has got the commitment yet to do it. But the Ferrari it's not letting Marcello get away.
Gaps down a little bit within that first sector, so Altway using the aero to good effect. There is Gilles Magnus's Audi from the Comtu team, and that I think is heading for its garage, so big problems. Gilles Magnus, who shone at Brands Hatch, 17th and a 9th they got in the opening 2 races. Right, Ancient Guven there in the Porsche in 5th, leading this line to try to catch the leading quartet.
He had a very good start, managed to thread his way through all that drama in the opening turns, so wait and see whether he can make further progress. He's 1.8 seconds behind Fred Verviche. He needs to keep that gap up the inside, and you get 42 cars trying to get through a very tight 4.2 kilometre, 2.6 mile circuit, and there's no big straight between all these 16 turns.
That was Lucas Legere being bold and brave as Marcello leads across the line. Altway is second, in third is Chavez, fourth is Verviche all over him like a rash, fifth is Guven, in 6th place Christopher Mies in the green Audi, 7th is Albert Costa's Ferrari, 8th is Aurelien Panis, and he is the leading gold as Valentino Rossi gets up the inside of Robert Renard, but he can't get past the Porsche.
No, he wasn't quite far enough alongside. He nearly got it done. He's going to try and make the undercut. He's tapping the back of the Porsche to settle it, and then he gets up the inside. So finally, after 3 corners, I think he's got it done. Yes, he has.
And also trying to get through there, look, is the Nicholas Cruton BMW, and he's got past Robert Renard. And then Sebastian Bode in the red Mercedes tries it and goes way wide, coming off the corner and drops back rather than gaining.
So 20th position for the 46ers. We see the McLaren in through the pits. And is that going to go into the gap? Yes, it is. It's been put onto the dollies, and that's a great shame. The 159 McLaren looks like its race is over. And that was Nicolas Schergaard who was involved in that collision, let's call it that, and turned to 1-2 on the opening lap.
I'm surprised actually Moore didn't get involved, because that was happening at the pointy end of it. You can see the damage on the left front corner, big bite taken out of it. Right, let's try and piece it together, John. Lights will change, we go racing, but
2 McLarens nose to tail. It's the second of the 2 McLarens. Suddenly it seems to get tagged. Yes, it did get tagged, and literally just spun the car around into the right, into the left, and that was the beginning of what we saw was confusion, if not, I mean, unbelievable. I mean, I can't imagine how all those cars that were spinning in the middle of the pack got away with it.
Very close. I was expecting far worse than that. Now, that lead gap, I would offer you, has come down. Giacomo Altway has indeed started to catch. He's done the fastest lap of the race. 7/10 of a second is the margin. Now, if he can stay there, this is going to be a really interesting race, isn't it? Because Konsta Lapalainen versus Tibor Bogoslavsky in the second stint will be game on.
Absolutely. Now, you took the very words out of my mind. I was going to say that. This race will not be about the current drivers, it'll be about the teammates who will take over. And again, it'll be about when do you want to come in. But look at this hip and shoulder up into turns 4 and 5. Audi getting shoved out into the outside of the corner. But tries to come back and make the undercut. Oh, that was so close.
Was indeed. So that was Stephen Pallat in the Porsche, the Hexis liveried Copenhagen run car. And we need to keep an eye in all of this, of course, on Audi number 40 of the championship leader, Riccardo Feller. He will give way to Matteo Drudi in the second stint, but they were only 18th on the grid and they've got a lot of work to do. Fastest lap of the race then, Altway. And on this, the 4th lap, he's hunting down the leader. Quicker in sector 1, lost a little bit of time in sector 2, but they've certainly shaken off the bronze leading Enrique Chavez, who's got Fred Verviche behind him. Ancient Guven is 5th. There, the rest of the field streaming through, some going wider and wider and wider. That back straight then has effectively 4 corners at the end of it, and each one is tighter than the previous one. So there's a king corner, a tighter corner, and then a hairpin.
Yeah, and Rossi just got a glimpse of him, still in 20th position, trying to run down Ezekiel Perez compact. That's the car directly ahead of him. So it's a Mercedes ahead of a BMW, so Rossi will have an opportunity. He's in the zone to try and make a move down the inside. It's going to be covered, I think, by Pitt. Yes, didn't get the opportunity. He wasn't near enough coming down into the braking to think about an overtake. But watch is not so much here. It'll be into the entry into turn 4, where if Rossi's got any opportunity, he'll stick the nose of the BMW.
That's Charles Weirtz having a go at the Mercedes there at the inside of Jim Pla. Through he goes. So the BMW squeezes up the inside, and through goes Charles Weirtz then. Gains ground. Good past that, but he's got a lot more to make in his stint.
Clean overtake. Both drivers gave each other working room. So that's the movement from Weirtz. He's moved up that 1 position, up into 17th. And just behind directly, we've got Perez Compact and Rossi in 19th and 20th. The gap between leads are just 0.8 of a second. It's kind of stabilizing because the last lap went to Marcello, so he's got the fastest lap so far, 1:33.2.
Now, fast forward to the second stint. Miguel Ramos, especially if he's struggling in the heat, may well drop back. Fred Vervisch in 4th place will give way to Nicholas Bart, another young gun. Number 12 Audi could be a dark horse for a win here.
So Rossi has found his way around. Perez Compact is now going to be looking at the back of another Mercedes as we look at the battle for 3rd and 4th. But that was just, I mean, it's just coming up just so quickly.
Yeah. The incident at the start is under investigation. There are the silver leaders, the Lovebirds, Jordan Love, Frank Bird, and it is Jordan Love starting in that car. Of course, the second driver, when they get into the car, that's the first mileage they've done all day. Weren't out in qualifying, haven't driven to the grid. They've thrown into the car and they've got to deliver, having not sat in the car all day.
Well, you know, some of them are professionals and some of them are, let's say, gifted amateurs.
Yeah.
So the ones that are the more professional will be the ones that make that adaptation to getting behind the wheel since yesterday when they were last behind the wheel, that little bit more quickly.
True. And Ezequiel Perez Compact here, second in silver in the Mao Panda Motorsport Mercedes, getting himself onto the back of Nicholas Cruton in another of the WRT BMWs. The BMs having lost 15 kilos on that post-qualifying BOP change, but it's not helping them too much. The best BMW is only 17th. That is a long way back. And right now, Raffaele Marciello is doing what's required of him, building a lead for Timur Boguslawski. Of course, what Raffaele does not want, either in his stint nor in Timur's, is a safety car.
I agree, and I mean, just hope, I wish there was no safety car. I mean, if there isn't one, it'll be a great result. But what I think we're saying Marcello do right now is he's beginning to just eke out a little bit every lap over second place Giacomo Altwe. He needed not to be aggressive on his opening early first, second, third laps. He didn't want to put the tyre under too much pressure too early. So he's gotten through the first 5 laps on lap 6. And now you can see visually the gap is increasing. Was 1.1 seconds 1 lap ago, now he's taken half a second out of second place Ferrari in the space of that last lap.
So 1.6 is the gap. 2 seconds back is Enrique Chavez in 3rd place. There is Fred Vervisch, who's struggling to overtake, but he's staying with Chavez. And then Ayhan Guven in 5th place. Now, Guven's last lap was a 33.5. He's lapping quicker than the Audi. So that white Porsche, there it is, of Ayhan Guven, who absolutely specialises in Porsches, whether it's one make or GT3 or GTE. He is catching all the time against Vervisch.
And he is a racer. He's not just a racing driver, he is a racer, and that's what I will be interested to see when he catches up to the tail of Fred Vervisch, who is another racer. Those two going at it, trying to find space on the racetrack, 4.2 kilometres, 16 turns. Not the straights, as I mentioned, not particularly long. Difficult to build your momentum, so it might be later in the race when these drivers have handed over to their co-drivers that the bulk of their overtaking might take place.
Intriguingly, you've got 2 bronzes in the top 5, 2 bronze categorised cars. They're ahead of all the golds and all the silvers. Now, of course, as long as there is a bronze graded driver in the car, it goes into the bronze cup. But of course, you can have a platinum or a gold with the bronze, and that's why now increasingly the bronze drivers are bringing an absolute gun for hire. And as we saw at Spa, they are able to be right up there for their stint.
I mean, just the entry to turn 16 from Chavez, the McLaren, he almost had all 4 wheels off the actual racetrack. And as a consequence of those curbings being taken down, drivers are able to use a lot more than were doing previously available.
So wide to turn 1 over the curb there was Albert Costa, using as much width of the road as he possibly can. Big dive on the inside line there from Leggeret on Weert, couldn't do it. Not for the want of trying, though. So, from the race, just to confirm, Kjærgaard has retired, Spinelli has retired, Magnus has retired, all with damage, and that incident is being looked at. As there, the Honda comes under fire, diving down towards turn 1 from Dennis Marshall. Now, number 66 Audi, remember, was involved, badly delayed, and Marshall now is trying to rebuild his race here.
Yeah, and he's just going to try and pick them off one by one. These are the cars who are running at the back of the field, whose pace would not match that of Dennis Marshall under normal circumstances, but Marshall has found himself in this position, so overtaking isn't going to be particularly easy, but he's got to make the best of what he's got.
Blasting down that back straight, they go up towards the Quechua long left-hander. So Audi versus Honda a little bit further down the order. That is Paul Avrard ahead of Leonardo Moncini, ahead of Dennis Marshall. Baptiste Moulin has dropped back in the Lamborghini. This is the battle for 30th place. Evrard ahead of Moncini there. And then you've got Dennis Marshall next in the queue.
We haven't seen much of him, but Lorenzo Petresi, who sort of blotted his copybook in qualifying, started at the back of the field, actually has made progress. He's up to 30th position. He's just picked off cars as he'd come across them, but again, he'll end up coming to a point where his momentum will stall out, and not that, time will stall out.
And he's the silver leader in the championship coming into this race. BMW 31, JB, Jean-Baptiste Simonar on his toes there to get past Yuki Nomoto. Nomoto in turn has got stuck behind Pietro Delinquenti as they come up towards turn 16. So that queue of cars building up.
And it's Petresi who's running behind. So he's looking to find a way around the BMW to make maybe more than a single pass. He's got Simonar, Nomoto and Delegati. So, oh, that was hip and shoulder.
Was it ever? And Jean-Baptiste Simonar gains 1 place, nearly 2.
And Petresi does likewise. And he's got to gain 2. The Lamborghini's got his cut down tyre.
Yeah, it's got damage. So off the road and back on again, the Audi. Off the road and now crabbing. With damage is Yuki Nomoto.
That's suspension.
It is. It's not a puncture, is it? It's damage suspension. And also into the pit lane has come Dean McDonald, sadly. That's up on the jacks as well. The McLaren from JP Motorsports. Driver out. Another retirement.
Yeah, great shame. 2 McLarens, 2 cars that were potentially in their classes. Very quick indeed. So JP Motorsport cars retired. And there's the Lamborghini roaring back. I mean, no, it's not this. Yes, it is. I mean, how he's getting back with that left rear wheel. You can see that look at the angle of it, look at it. Well, there you go.
That's the clue to back off, isn't it? So Yuki Nomoto is trying to get it round to the pits, but this is a big risk at that speed. So here it is again. Jean-Baptiste Simonar dives one side and then the other. Nomoto flings it up the inside of Pietro Delinquenti's Audi, forces him off the road, picks up damage in the process, and then it all goes wrong coming out of turn 3.
Yeah, I mean, that was a dive down the inside where really it was only going to end up one way. And the consequence is Nomoto has gone into the pits and the race has been disturbed.
Although that said, Pietro Delinquenti will drop back. Jean-Baptiste Simonar is the big winner out of all of that. Now Marciello is 2 seconds ahead of Altway for the race lead. And in 10 minutes time, the pit stop window will be open. Now, of course, in many cases where you've got a quick driver with an AM, so the quick driver is going to stay in for as long as they can. This in super slow-mo is the effect on the tyres and the suspension of the ripple curves.
Hate really watching it because if you're an engineer, which I'm not, but you know the shock loading that's going into the suspension. If you're a Pirelli engineer, you know what the tyre's being. I mean, that is torture for a tyre.
This, the overall race leader then, Raffaele Marciello, 2 seconds to the good. He is building that lead, but he's not storming off into the distance, although that said, this now looks like one of his better laps. A 10th in the first sector, just under a 10th pulled out in the second. So the lead is building, isn't it, all the time?
And he's got a lovely, lovely rhythm, and he's making all the corners around the racetrack. Oh, Valentino, that was one to 2 wheels on the grass coming down the straight. I'll have a look at that again.
He's gained a place off Lucas Leggeret. Has he? Leggeret stays on the outside line and goes back behind the BMW. Rossi secures the place, and that moves him up into 16th spot.
Looking really feisty here this afternoon, but Leggeret almost thought about going up the inside into turn 15, but was too far back to make any of it. So Valentino has gained yet another position. So that is going to see him up into 16th place. So on board. This is up at turn 9 and 10 as we come onto the back straight. Gets us alongside, almost along. There's the benefit of getting a 15 onto the grass, cuts the grass and gets alongside Leggeret and takes that position away.
But that is brave stuff. So anybody that thinks that Valentino Rossi is not a proper GT racer, think again. That was a great move, and having cleared the Audi, he's pulled away.
Now he's raced here innumerable times in motorbikes and MotoGP or whatever. And that move was a walk in the park compared to some of the moves he would have pulled off in his two-wheel professional career.
Very true indeed. It's worked for him then as the cars work lap number 11. Loris Spinelli's start is now being investigated as well, and there is a time penalty coming for somebody on the pit stop. We'll double check whom in a moment as Vincent Voss looks somewhat nervously, as does Yves Wirtz nearest the camera, at all of the data.
Yeah, their best placed car is 32. It's in 14th place, Charles Wirtz, 2 places behind Valentino Rossi. So Wirtz will hand over to Dries van Voor, and Valentino Rossi will hand over to Maxime Martin.
Pietro Delinquenti is the one getting the 5-second penalty for track limits. So that's a hold on the pit stop. Dennis Marshall then, after being delayed at the start, now running in 28th, and Lorenzo Petresi up from the back of the grid, now into 27th, but more significant for him, third in class. And with Frank Bird's car leading, he will take it over. Ezequiel Perez compact second. He's going to give that to Jesse Salmanautio. Petresi will give his Audi to Alex Arca. They could yet win the class here.
Yeah, I mean, Alex Arca and Petresi is a very strong lineup. So down the inside, no, not down the inside. Looked like it was. That camera shot foreshortened the gap between the Ferrari and the BMW. So Simonar had to bail out of that one. Bertolini, who knows this place, every which direction has been run clockwise, counterclockwise. Wasn't about to concede a position to Jean-Luc Simonar in the 26th placed BMW M4.
These are the leaders, Raffaele Marciello, edging clearer lap by lap. Although that said, you will have noticed, no doubt, that 37 thousandths closer at the end of the first sector is Giacomo Altway.
Yes.
Third, Chavez. Fourth, Bavish, and through Covoni, the top speed, 240 kilometres an hour of Nicholas Crutten, Owen Bastar, and Valentino Rossi.
I wonder why you got 3 BMWs in that part of the racetrack that are fastest. May I suggest the benefit of having a 15 kilogram balance of performance gain is the reason why?
And some brave drivers, no doubt, as well, as Leggeret there goes toe-to-toe with Nicholas Crutten and stays ahead of him, but goes very, very wide, and that gives Crutten a chance in the BMW to try to squeeze up the inside. Well, the car can't breathe in, and so the gap wasn't there, and Leggeret hangs on to the place.
Yes, I mean, Leggeret had the ground and Crutten knew it, because we tried to force that situation and they're in contact with both cars and potential pit stops for both cars and potentially a penalty for an overtake. That was not really, but look at BMW right in the back of the Audi coming down to turn 1, but just not sufficient length, pit straight to give them the advantage that he needed.
So they're nose to tail, Leggeret and Crutten tries to get the run coming up towards 4 and 5. Leggeret makes that car very, very wide indeed.
Petresi's falling away. Something has happened to Lorenzo Petresi. He's dropped 4 positions in the space of that last lap. I don't know what that is, but that car, maybe it's the 99 Audi. We've got a glimpse of that to see where or what the problems are.
Yeah, you've got now Dennis Marshall having jumped him, as you say. Jean-Baptiste Simonau's got ahead of Andrea Bertolini. Leggeret then having got ahead and keeping ahead of Nicholas Crutten. They're kind of pairing off, aren't they? Different little battles are in pocket here. And this pair, Nicholas Crutten on the back of the Audi. There is number 25. That is Owen Bastar, who we saw nothing of in qualifying. The Santa Lock Audi had an engine change, and he started absolutely stone last on the grid. He was 42nd, and he's got the car up to 30th place. And when Patrick Niederhauser, DTM racer these days, as well as GT3 racer, gets on board the car, it'll gain more ground.
Indeed. So we had Petresi on the back row alongside, and by Bastar. So both have made good progress side by side now, but again coming out of turn 14, the Audi has got the ground. BMW having to try and find a way, but not able to do it. Coming out of start-finish straight as they go on to lap 15.
So down the pit straight they go. Raffaele Marciello still leads the way up front with 13 laps in the book. He's 3 seconds to the good. Leggeret fends off Crutten as they dive down through turn 1 and then into 2. The left and then right again at 3. Short straight road blasts down to a double apex right, and that is the car that's going to have a hold on the pit stop. At 5 seconds, a time penalty for Pietro Degli Guanti. I think in fairness one of his track limit abuses was when he was rather rudely elbowed out of the way, but 35th the car has dropped to now. Adrian Delina there looking the dynamic Porsche having got ahead of him, and Sean Hudspeth has got up past him as well.
Yeah, the car is not looking comfortable. The back end just snaps away from Degli Guanti in turn 2. So he's just dropped literally in the last lap 3 positions.
Driving standards flags being shown to a number of drivers now for repeated track limit offences. And you can see there coming through at the left at turn 6 just how much of the curb on the inside is being gobbled up by the cars. The pit window will open in just over 3 minutes time. And like I was saying earlier on, the drivers that are out here to help a slower co-driver will do as much driving as they can. Witness Raffaele Marciello staying out. So he's the race leader, and you can see the gap that he's got over there. Second, Giacomo Altway in the Ferrari. Third and fourth, a little bit closer, because the bronze leading Enrique Chavez is ahead of Fred Vervies. Fifth was Guven. 6th Mies, 7th Costa, 8th is the leading gold, just going through the shot, the Audi of Aurelian Panis. There, the blue Mercedes, 2nd silver of Jordan Love, and then the 3rd bronze behind him is Norbert Siedler. Big flash of the lights from Nicholas Crutten as he lines up to have another go to get past Leggeret. This is a pretty close line. Fabian Schiller there in the green Mercedes, coming under attack from Charles Wirtz now, and Jordan Love doing a good job, isn't he? Hanging on to 9th place, keeping Norbert Siedler at bay.
Yeah, keeping a McLaren at the minute. McLarens have been showing great pace. Certainly back in Spa 24 Hours, they were one of the brands that I thought would really step forward in terms of overall performance again. They're one of these brands here today that didn't gain through that balance of performance change. So they're running with the performance that they had in qualifying, which was held much earlier this morning.
Out wide there, the Audi. So loss of momentum for Ricardo Feller, who's on the back of Franck Pereira. That's the championship leading car, don't forget. Number 40, and Ricardo Feller struggled in qualifying. Mattia Drudi will take that car over, but Ricardo Feller has got work to do to try to haul it up the order. Makes that run down the back straight. But Ricardo Feller then, ADAC GT Masters champion a couple of years ago, stuck in the traffic, and again, when the cars pit, is going to be interesting because of teams trying to use the strategy of the race to get them out of traffic.
Also, there's 5 cars out, so there's 37 cars still running, and I hope that all 37 don't choose to come in at the same time. The pit lane will be, let's say, congested.
Very much so. There's the leading Silver Cup car then. Jordan Love over the line. This is the Lovebird Mercedes. Frank Bird will take it over from Jordan Love on the pit stop. Right there behind him is Norbert Siedler. And then you've got Franck Pereira ahead of Ricardo Feller, Fabian Schiller. They're all queued up. Charles Wirtz has joined the party. So has Adam Ateki, and Valentino Rossi is also there now. So in a way, Jordan Love, is it unfair to call him the cork in the bottle? You can see how many are stacked up in the queue, though.
I'm glad you said a cork in the bottle because, you know, I get into trouble sometimes saying things. So I think what you said, I'll concur. But once others behind, if they get released, they'll be able to pull away.
So the Mercedes accelerates down towards the end of the back straight, the Quechua left-hander. So Jordan Love, the Australian, should be well versed in the heat. Goes left, got Norbert Siedler on his tail. He's coping well with all of the pressure. Pereira is next, and Jordan Love may not have the pace to get away, but he's doing nothing wrong. The way that he's defending is impressive, and they're all queued up behind. Nobody really within the traffic. He's able to dart through. So pit window will be open in 18 seconds' time. Those in midfield or at the back of the queue will be able to pit earlier if they need to. Now, in the majority of cases, it's in a Pro-Am style car, the Pro that goes first, so there's no reason for them to come in other than A, maybe trying to roll the dice on strategy, and B, because they're struggling with the heat. But if you come in now, you're giving your co-driver a very long stint the other side of the window.
Well, Come To You Racing are preparing to bring one of their cars in there. You see the battle that's going on. They're diving in, and there's Ricardo Feller diving in and going to hand that car over
to Mattia Drudi.
Yep, so that's going to be that's a good move, I think.
Rossi in, and also Wirtz in. So give Van Thor for Wirtz and give Maxime Martin for Valentino Rossi as much time as possible.
Yeah, as WRT are going to have to, they're not going to do a double stack, but they're going to have both their cars in at the same time. So it's Wirtz coming in just ahead of Rossi, and how well the WRT team going to manage it? Well, very well by the looks of things. So Valentino disconnects all the bits and pieces. Maxime Martin climbs in, pulls over the shoulder strap. Valentino leans in, assists, and then the netting, which is mandatory now, goes back into position. The door is closed, and that's Valentino's job done here for this afternoon.
And away goes Dries Van Thor, away goes Maxime Martin, who I think is going to jump ahead, isn't he? Yes, on the pit stop. The Audi has dropped back behind both BMWs, so the car that was ahead on the run into the pits, now Mattia Drudi's number 40 Audi, has fallen back behind both BMWs.
Well, they're going to find a hard time getting past Maxime Martin or Dries Van Thor, and that is not an ideal pit stop, unfortunately, for the Audi.
Away goes the Dynamic Porsche, and also about to be released there, the Lamborghini, number 119. So that's away with Marcus Pavarud at the wheel of the car. Right, so that's going to shuffle us. Albert Costa has come in out of 7th place in one of the two Emil Frey Racing Ferraris. This is the leader. This is Raffaele Marciello, and he will go to the bitter end of the window, won't he?
Absolutely. There's no reason for him to come in. He's now got a 5-second advantage over second place Ferrari of Giacomo Altri. So the Emil Frey team have got 2 Ferraris, so they've brought the Albert Costa one in earlier, let Giacomo Altway stay out until the lights, basically, the pit lane goes red, and then bring him in.
That slowish pit stop that we witnessed for Riccardo Fella to give way to Matteo Drudi, 6 seconds slower than the equivalent stop Weerts to Vanthoor. So they jumped 6 seconds on that pit stop and lost the 2 places in the process.
No, that's not a good pit stop. And there's the Ferrari. Albert Costa had brought it in, so it's going back out again. And again, it's really where you go back into the field. Oh, contact again. And is that...
It's a Honda.
I was going to say it's one of the Hondas. I thought it was. It looks like it's been either a tyre cut down or suspension has damaged, or maybe just he was offline. That's why the car looked a little bit loose at the rear, but it's into the pit lane.
Maxime Martin has done the absolute best first sector of anybody, middle sector of anybody in the race. He's only just taken over the car, and ahead of him was the Aaron Honda. Yeah, I don't think it was damage, it just ran out of road.
Yep, he went on a very, very dusty, dirty bit of the racetrack. And the tyres will have picked up as we go back to our race leader, going on to his 18th lap.
So Marcello, the race leader, with 31 3/4 minutes of the race, still to go. Pit window remains open. Now look, Altway has fallen away from him to the tune of 5 seconds, and also 2 back markers in between the top 2 as well. But that's all going to change once they have cycled through the stops. How long does Altway stay out before he gives way to Lapalainen? We know that Marcello will go to the end. Enrique Chavez, quicker than Miguel Ramos, will stay out for quite a long time, and Vervish possibly as well.
I think if I was running in that number 14 Ferrari, I would want to be brought in a little earlier than we perceive. And Dries van Thor, yes, you point out fastest sector time, sector 1. I would want to bring that Ferrari in, assuming that Mercedes are not going to come in until the very last minute, to do what you might describe as the undercut, get back out again, and then have that first flying lap under your belt before the Mercedes then would return to track.
So more pit stops, as you can see, cycle through. In there comes Jordan Love to give way to Frank Bird, and improvements coming in sectors. Dries van Thor well and truly fired up. Also pushing on is Christopher Haase in number 11. Now that was looking fairly racy in the hands of Lucas Legeret. Fascinating this though, with some cars putting the quicker driver in first and others the quicker driver in second. New fastest lap of the race, Dries van Thor, 1:32.445, boom.
That's the first time this weekend we've seen that counter pace coming from a BMW, and Dries van Thor has nailed at 1:32.446. So, but he's running down presently in 25th position. There's still a lot of cars yet who have to make their pit stop, so that will be readjusted by the time everybody has made that 10-minute pit lane or 10-minute pit lane window open and out.
Dries van Thor has the lap record here, 1:30.9. We're quite a long way off that in these temperatures. It's so hot this weekend across Europe. As there, number 12, Fred Vervish gives way to Nicholas Bart, the son of the team owner at ComTU Racing. Jean-Michel Bart, the car blasts away now then down the pit lane. And Nicholas Bart, another, like Gilles Magnus, regular TCR pace setter before coming into GT racing.
Maxime Martin looking to find a way around the Lamborghini, and attempts, and maybe he's going to succeed, but he's going to find himself being pushed further and further out to the left by the Lamborghini, trying to make the undercut again into turn 14, but not sufficient ground to do it without having contact.
Now that Lamborghini is from Pereira, who's yet to stop, so it's a battle on the track. It's not a battle for position, and therefore Martin is being hampered because that Lamborghini is going to pit, but not yet. Another lap done by the French driver from Pereira, Lamborghini factory driver, goes down towards turn 1, and he's quite entitled to fight. He wants to get the best result for him and Jordan Pepper as he can, so come on Max, if you want to get past me, you're going to have to work for it.
Yes, but remember the BMW's on fresh rubber as the race leader is in.
So Raffaele Marciello comes down pit lane to give way to Timo Boguslavski, and Altway is in as well to give way to Lapalainen.
So it's going to be a race in the pit lane between the Emilio Frey team and the ASP team to see, or our Kodos ASP team to see who can get the. So Marcello is out, Timo Boguslavski gets in, one set of tires off, and let's see, look pretty shiny set of tires going on from Boguslavski. There's the Ferrari behind, so it came in, what, 5 seconds behind the Mercedes, so there'll be a little bit behind. The Mercedes is about to roll, it is rolling, and they're still fighting with the left front on the Ferrari, so off its jacks. I think that pit stop will maybe a couple of tenths, maybe a couple of seconds even behind the Acutis ASP team.
Well, let's have a look, because they've now got that long drive all the way around the outside of turns 1 and 2 before they get to the pit out line. And so a good stop is around about the 63-second mark. And for the Mercedes, it was 65.4. And for the Ferrari, it was 67, 68, 69, 69.5. So they've lost nearly 4 seconds on the pit stop.
And there is our race leader, Enrique Chavez. So he must be coming in. And how long can he stay out? Surely he can't stay out much longer than this. So both the lead car and second place car opted, whether it was coincidentally or not, so Chavez can stay out for yet another lap.
Well, he knows that when that car is handed over to Miguel Ramos, it will have a differing pace, so he's trying to exploit that as best he can. So it's a lap in the lead for the McLaren, and in second place as they come over the timing line. Well, it's a long way back, the second place car, because we've had so many making stops. It's probably going to be Norbert Siedler now in number 112 McLaren. He's the next best, if you like, of those that has not made a pit stop. The car directly behind Enrique Chavez is a lap down after the stops, and it is the Audi in the hands of Simon Gachet now, as there Louis Machiels accelerates away, having taken over from Andrea Bertolini.
Is that the first time they've raced the 296 this season? They ran certainly at Brands Hatch the 488 down, a dive down the inside. McLaren stays well and truly away because they're not in the same race and makes the undercut. And yes,
goes almost back ahead, but Gachet's got the inside line for 9. Can't do it. Oop, Chavez a little bit twitchy, and he's going to go deep into 10. So Gachet says, right, thank you very much. You didn't really need to fight me. I'm going through and I'm staying through. So the Audi goes by, unlaps itself from Enrique Chavez, and we've only got Chavez and Fabian Schiller now running second on the road to make a pit stop, and they've got to do it this time.
Yes, because the clock is stopping at 30. So down in these final 3 corners. Looks like the McLaren has just lost that little bit of pace over the last lap or so. Not quite as emphatic as it was. Oh, there, look at that dive. Wow. Wasn't much left there to dive into the pit lane, but he's got to get it slowed down. There he is now, 50 kilometers per hour. You can see the 50 kilometer speed limit. And that's the speed he's maintained all the way down.
So in he comes, the team is ready and goes to work, and Miguel Ramos gets ready to jump into the sauna. So Timo Boguslavski will inherit the race lead, of course, back up front, but now number 911, Alex Malikin, being shown as behind him and having jumped ahead of Konsta Lapalainen. So Ancient Guven giving way to Malikin. Well, it wasn't that quick a stop, so I'll be intrigued to see whether that is the case at the end of the lap. And here comes the Mercedes.
So Boguslavski on his first flying lap comes through turn 16. Wonder, just get a glimpse and see what time that car will record. The last lap was a 2:17. That took into account Boguslavski 1:34.0. So that's his first flying lap on that new set of tires, and I think it can only get quicker.
Right, Lapalainen is second, Bart is third, and in fourth place there going through is Thierry Vermeulen. In fifth place, Alberto Di Folco, and now sixth is Dries Van Thor. Now, Van Thor would quite welcome a safety car here to bunch them all up, wouldn't he? But right now, Boguslavski to Lapalainen is the gap to monitor, and it is 9.6 seconds.
I don't know what to say about that, because both drivers, which of the two might be the quicker, it depends, because right now the McLaren we know has been really quick. We know that the Mercedes is the most consistent car over the longer stint, and again it'll be about balancing pace against use of your tires, not using the tire too aggressively on the opening lap, but the car will feel really good.
So there is then number 14, the Ferrari, in the hands of Konsta Lapalainen, former Formula 4 champion in that North European zone back in 2018. He's raced single-seaters until switching to GT cars 3 seasons back, and behind him is Nicholas Bart. So a three-way battle for the race I think he's going to build up. We were suggesting in the first stint that the Vervish Bart Audi might be a dark horse. Well, Nicholas Bart is continuing the pace, continuing to go well. That car was fourth on the grid. They got an 8th and a 20th at Brands Hatch, which doesn't really illustrate the two drivers' ability. So Boguslavski leads, and now we need to keep an eye to the lap times as he breaks the beam and that was a 33.5, so quicker than his first one. He's getting into a rhythm, and again, it's tough for Boguslavski, tough for anybody. Thrown into the car midway through the race, first time he's driven it all day.
And of course, there's a massive expectation, having seen what your teammate has done by leading from the light out, leading all the way through, extending that advantage. He knows that he's under pressure, but he's got that 9.7 second advantage, and all he has to do, he's got 22 minutes and a little bit of seconds to go just to keep the Ferrari at bay. Whether traffic will become a factor, because we'll be catching other cars that will be putting a lap down, so that will be where Boguslavski's ability in traffic could save him a battle with Lapalainen in the second place Ferrari.
Hubert Haupt hustling on in the red Mercedes. There, a little bit further back, Eric Debar, gold medal winner in the FIA Motorsport Games GT race last year, runs out way, way wide, and that is going to give the Porsche a chance to challenge. So as they come over the timing line there, it goes through, and car number 40 is being given a 5-second time penalty. That's the championship leaders, Fella and Drudy. 5-second penalty.
Do we know for what? That sounds like maybe a pit stop one. No?
Time penalty, I suspect it's for track limits.
Track limits.
And that's going to be added to the race time. And another one has picked one of those up, 79. That is the Haupt Mercedes. Right, Boguslavski to Lapalainen, 9.7 seconds. It's crept up a little bit. Nicholas Bart in third place. In fact, last time around, Boguslavski and Lapalainen equal time, 33.517. Next lap from Boguslavski is a 33.4. Lapalainen is about to break the beam as you look there at Patrick Niederhauser, keeping Hubert Haupt at bay. And on that lap, yeah, Boguslavski quicker than Lapalainen, so it's advantage Mercedes as Vanthor now comes up to give Alberto Di Folco a tough time, and Di Folco, remember, is the leading Gold Cup runner.
You would assume that Dries Vanthor is going to find a way through. Certainly he was quicker through turns 1 and 2, and you can see just he's got more pace. The Audi had to step sideways as Dries Vanthor placed the BMW in exactly the right part of the racetrack. That was just momentum on the part of Dries Vanthor. He was always quicker than the Audi, and it wasn't a matter of if but where that pass would happen.
So that puts Dries Vanthor up into 5th place. Next target is the second Emil Frey Ferrari, number 69, Thierry Vermeulen at the wheel of that car, whose father, remember, is Max Verstappen's manager in the Verstappen.com racing car, run by Emil Frey racing team. And Dries Vanthor hustling on to try to catch up. He's got a good 5 seconds or so to make up, as you see Eric Debar there. Whoops, Honda gets involved with the Audi in the background, so the Mercedes survives all of that, but only just. And that was Jacopo Guidetti and Andrei Mukazov coming to grief.
Yeah, aggressive moves, 2 contacts in space of 2 corners. One was a bit like a snooker ball being punched by another one, and the one into turn 4 looked like it was going to be similar, but maybe we didn't cut back in time to see the consequence.
Now there's Maxime Martin on the back of Jordan Pepper, so he's still chasing that Lamborghini. And Miguel Ramos is just up the road ahead. Ramos has kept hold of the bronze lead. Gold is being led by Di Folco, 5th overall. Bronze by Ramos, 7th overall. And silver, Frank Bird, 13th overall. So Vanthor has gone over the timing line. Di Folco loses out, he's down to 6th. And now 7th is Ramos in 8th place, Jordan Pepper. 9th is Maxime Martin.
So Martin's going to struggle to find a way around Jordan Pepper. Miguel Ramos is just 2 places further up the road. And one would assume that he might be a target, easier to pick off, different battle, different category. So Maxime Martin, the performance of the Lamborghini is sufficient, and of course just 2 places up the road is the other McLaren.
Riding on board with Maxime Martin then in 9th place, and the gap to Jordan Pepper was 0.7 of a second at the start of this lap. Concertinaing as they turn their way up through Quetcha, turn 8. Miguel Ramos just up the road ahead, so you've got the bronze class leader fending off 2 from the overall battle.
So Lamborghini looking a little bit unstable coming through turn 10 onto the straight. So those are the little hints that Maxime Martin will be seeking, and as he continues to put pressure on to the Lamborghini coming down through the kink on the back straight down into then this turn 14 or 13 and 14. So the Lamborghini just about making sure that Maxime Martin cannot find a way around either inside or the outside, and a good job being done by Jordan Pepper.
It is, absolutely so. And behind Maxime Martin, coming back at the pair of them, is the indefatigable Christopher Haase. Incident between 188, Chavez, Ramos, and number 21, which is the Magnus Hutchison car noted. Now, it can only, therefore, have been at the start of the race,
Yes,
can't it?
that was the opening lap, opening corner, basically.
Yeah. It's taken a while for that to feed through the system, but it's been identified to the teams now.
Christopher Hauser drawing himself up to the tail of this three-way battle to make it a four-way battle. Maxime Martin needs to be on his toes. Christopher Hauser is no mean competitor, and he'll be sitting back thinking, waiting. Everybody has said, many people have said, that this track tends to suit Audi amongst other brands, so that's something that Christopher Hauser will no doubt feel as he's chasing down the BMW number 46.
And with the closure at the end of the year of Audi Sport and the Audi factory driver roster, people like Christopher Hauser, Christopher Mies are going to be on the job market, and those are two drivers for sure who are far too good not to be employed next year.
Very much so. And just how close can you get to the back? It goes to the outside of the Lamborghini now. Going to try and make it the long way round. Can he maintain? Where's the green Lamborghini? It's not quite in the driver's line, and he's sort of knows by, well, Jordan Love again. He's just Jordan Pepper, beg your pardon, managing. But look at the struggle he's got keeping that Lamborghini pointing in the right direction. Up the inside now, Maxime Martin gets the job done, or has he?
Back on the inside is Pepper, retakes the place, so he ran a little bit wide.
Christopher Hauser's going to make a move up the inside and gets past Maxime Martin. That was always going to be the case. Hauser watching those two go at it like a bare-knuckle fight. Now he's gained that position, and Maxime Martin tries to come back, and he has come back.
Round the outside, that was granted a straight line, wasn't it? They rubbed going into turn one. So one up and one back for Christopher Hauser. Great opportunistic dive to gain the place, but that was sheer horses that outgunned him on the pit straight. But you're right about Jordan Pepper. It's a real struggle, that Lamborghini. It does not look compliant, but now he's being saved, isn't he, by the Martin-Hauser battle behind him.
And you've got Matteo Drudi also joining in to what was a three-way battle, now four, and very shortly going to be a five. But of course, that Audi has got a penalty coming an extra 5 seconds. That will be added to its race time.
So there is number 40, Matteo Drudi, in 11th place overall. The ComTU team watching their third-placed car, but also the 10th place car of Christopher Hauser. It was briefly 9th, it's back down to 10th, and Matteo Drudi inching up as well in the Attempto Racing run Audi. But that struggled in qualifying and is struggling again right now. So they come down the back straight. We've only got 15 minutes of the race to go, and although 88 Mercedes has dominated it and is still stretching the advantage, time has flown.
It sure has, and just look at the gaps between this car and the Audi that momentarily got ahead. Christopher Hauser taking lumps of time. There we are, back on board with the 46 BMW. Maxime Martin behind the wheel, and just Jordan Love has had to fight all the way the Lamborghini to keep the car pointing in a straight line. So the big advantage he has is he's into the corner first, he's on the throttle first, and that gives him that little margin. No way for Maxime Martin to build up momentum, which is ultimately the thing that will enable you to get past.
Now, fair play to Timo Boguslavski up front, because his lap times have been good and they've been solid, and he is therefore maintaining that gap. Indeed, he's preserved that gap over Konsta Lapalainen in second place.
And Boguslavski's times roughly within half a second or so of those that we saw from Marcello in that opening stint, so he's doing a good job. He's maintaining that 9-second gap, not letting it get below 9 seconds. Psychologically, if you start to see your gap diminish, reduce, that puts you under another form of pressure. So he's doing what he's required to do and maintaining, and what we've got 14 minutes to go.
Indeed, something like that, as you look at the second silver battle with the Mad Panda Motorsport Mercedes just ahead, Jesse Salmanagdio, and behind him is Alex Arca. Now, don't forget, 99, third in class, has come from the back of the grid. I said before the pit stops, that could be a winner. Well, in fairness, Frank Bird's Mercedes is still a long way up the road, but second place is not out of the question, and Alex Arca is the man to do it.
Yeah, Salmanagdio in 90 is only, what, half a second ahead of that 18th place Mercedes.
Which has a look on the inside, more in hope than in anticipation, I think, there, because Alex Arca not close enough for that to be a realistic move, but if it puts Salmanagdio off his line into the next sequence of corners, there might be a chance, but it didn't work.
Not this time, but the pace that Alex Arca has got, to me, is greater than the Mercedes he's running down, so it's more, it's 13 minutes remaining in this race, where rather than when.
And that will be a save, bearing in mind that they came in as the silver championship leaders, and from the back of the grid have rebuilt the race. Lorenzo Petresi, Riccardo Petresi's son, put it in the gravel on his first flying lap, was mortified, but they've regrouped. Lead gap's down a touch. Boguslavski to Lapalainen down that time by about 0.7 of a second.
Fair chunk of time. We don't know, we didn't see any reason on screen or know of any reason why that time would have been lost. So it's still a 9-second advantage over second place Ferrari. So I don't think there's any reason to get into a state of panic. And Boguslavski will be made aware of all this from the pit lane. And he will be able to hopefully focus again and just keep that gap where it presently is.
So let's see, in the first sector, lost 0.3. In the second sector, gained 0.2. But over the course of the lap, it's advantage to the chasing Ferrari. But how much time left is there? As now, battle on. Frank Bird versus Callum Williams. This, a battle between a silver and a gold. So Frank Bird needs to pick his battles. Callum Williams doesn't necessarily have to get past, other than he's trying to pull away from Cesar Gazzo's Audi, which is the next car on the road. But they're both racing drivers. One wants to hang on to his place, one wants to gain a place.
Very much so, and that is the case with the BMW. Callum Williams looking every way, which way possible to get around the Mercedes. So he's got the pace to catch. The difficulty will be, will he have the pace that's too far back to think about a dive down the inside? Best thing is to hang on and as close as you can through this right, left, right, and come back onto the short straight that leads into turn 4, but it's not sufficiently close at this point. Then the next opportunity would be into turn 8, but he needs to get the BMW that little bit closer to the tail of the Mercedes than it presently is.
Race leading gap is down by another 0.4 of a second as riding the curbs there. Number 30 BMW accelerates onto the back straight. So Callum Williams on the tail of Frank Bird, 12th and 13th they are. You've got the blue Mercedes, which leads the Silver Cup ahead of number 30, which is in the Gold Cup and is second in class, behind, a long way behind, number 9 of Alberto Di Folco, 6th overall versus 13th overall.
So just getting closer, closer, closer to the tail of the Mercedes, and gap when it came across the line was only 0.2 of a second. It's almost irrelevant, the gap, but you can see where they are. But the Mercedes is managing to hold off the BMW. The benefit of that 15 kilogram BOP hasn't worked, and look at this battle going. Maxime Martin wedged between the Audi and the Lamborghini.
Absolutely so, trying to attack, trying to defend, and then you've got number 40 next in the queue, plus it's 5 seconds, and at the moment he's only 4 seconds ahead of the Bird-Williams battle, so Matteo Drudi's car will fall back overall. As over the timing line goes Maxime Martin, that car really good in a straight line where it's got the grunt, closes up onto the back of Jordan Pepper, who's right on the back of Miguel Ramos.
Yes, traffic, look at this mess, go the wrong way and you will lose out. Maxime Martin may well have sort of wrong-footed himself. The Lamborghini almost took 4 wheels off the racetrack. And you can see Christopher Haase trying to make a long, long way around turn 4 on the exit, but it's dirty out there. You don't want to get all that rubbish onto your tyres, so everybody breathes again.
Can we have a hat tip for Miguel Ramos then? Because the very, very successful Portuguese AM, or AM Plus, is 7th overall. And look, he's keeping at bay Pepper, Martin, Haase, Drudy. That's quite a roll call that he's got behind him, and he's still in 7th place overall. He's taken that car over from Enrique Chavez, but fair play. What I'm saying is he's kept it up there and kept all of those pros at bay.
And he's got to get past Andrea Bertolini in the 52 Ferrari, and that's the car that might prove difficult to pass. Ramos looks to come out, get around that, no way. Then Jordan Love pops out as well. So everybody's looking for gaps, everybody's trying to force somebody to make an error.
Jordan Pepper in the Lamborghini on his toes to try to get through. Maxime Martin wants to try to jump him if he can. It was at this section a few laps back that we saw how nervous the Lamborghini was, but now Pepper to the inside and Ramos gives him racing room, and Maxime Martin says, yep, I'll have that gap as well, thank you.
And Christopher Haase, watch Haase, he's the 3rd car on this line. We can't quite see where he is. Look how wide he goes coming through turn 15. The Ferrari just steps aside and lets this race go through. Bertolini has been around long enough to know this is not my race, and I'm just going to let these guys go at it.
So Andrea Bertolini lets them go. The Ferrari through then, as down towards turn 1 goes Christopher Haase, up into 9th place. Ramos then 11th over the line. Matteo Drudy went ahead of him, but he needs to pull away by 5 seconds, does the Audi that you just saw there, in order to keep that place. Not Andrea Bertolini, I'm telling you a lie. Louis Machiels, the ID hasn't been changed on that car. Bertolini started, Louis Machiels in it now. Right, so there 4th is Thierry Vermeulen. And Dries Van Thor, well, I was about to give you the gap, but you can see it for yourselves. He's down to 11/10 of a second now. So Van Thor has got on with the job. He's chipped away. And remember, he's done the fastest lap of the race, and that was done in the second stint, of course.
Yes, and he's got 8 minutes in which to try and make one more position to get up to 4th place. Thierry Van Meulen in the Ferrari, and he's got his own little battle going in Nicholas Bart. You can see there the Audi coming down the straight. But Dries Van Thor's driven, as you would expect him to do, absolutely on the limit, nothing left.
Yeah, Van Meulen has caught Bart, who in turn has dropped away from Lapalainen. So 3rd, 4th, 5th here has the time to change, doesn't it? You could get Van Thor onto the podium, which would be quite some result, bearing in mind that that car started 21st on the grid. Run wide out of 15, rattle up the curb. You're looking at Van Meulen, who was quick at Brands Hatch, but had the occasional wild ride. And then over the line they come. So, Nicholas Bart, 3rd, 4th, Thierry Van Meulen, 5th, Dries Van Thor, 4/10 of a gap, then half a second of a gap as they dive into the turn 1, 2, 3 sequence, the S's at the start of the lap.
Yes, just the sidebar you've got on board with Maxime Martin, as well as watching the action that's taking place here for 3rd, 4th and 5th positions overall.
Ferrari through then, and catching as they get into turn 5 there. Nicholas Bart under attack, but Dries Van Thor waiting to use the BMW's grunt, which it seems to have, and then he'll be able to catch onto the back of those two aero-friendly cars.
Yes, you can see Thierry Van Meulen on the headlights trying to distract Nicholas Bart. Actually, just watching into turn 8, I think Dries Van Thor managed to close the gap between 5th and 4th place. So there are certainly bits of the racetrack where you can say Van Thor has got more pace. While it looks like he's got good straight line pace, but there are other parts where the BMW is working really well.
So down the back straight, 6 minutes on the clock. Lead gap, by the way, which was at 9.6 at the start of the stint, is down to 7.5. It's come down, but I think Boguslavski is being slightly affected by traffic, but also he's got enough in hand here to be able to hang on to that. Only has to win by 1,000th as long as he wins. There, Van Thor right on the back now of Thierry Van Meulen for 4th place. And if they start squabbling, that's going to give Bart a lifeline.
Yes, and the back of the Ferrari looked to me, coming through 14th, on throttle, to be sliding. So maybe the rear tires of the Ferrari are beginning to say, I've had enough. And that's the hope. There's things of that nature that's going to give Dries Van Thor. Pulls out, tries to get by. Well, he certainly gained on that last third of the last lap to put himself to where he is now, directly behind the Ferrari. Ferrari may have slightly fractured a bit more straight line performance. And in the meantime, 3rd place Nicholas Bart is letting these two go at it and sort of staying out of it.
Yeah, he's not getting away, as one might have expected with a squabble behind him. And Van Meulen is keeping, as we know, one of the best GT drivers, triple Sprint Cup champion at bay. Again, nose to tail. This time, though, Van Meulen has to think about defending, and Van Thor is all over him like a rash. Inside, outside, inside, outside, inside at Quechia. Can't do it.
And damage to the front of the BMW.
Yeah. And I thought for a moment Van Meulen was going to go wide. Didn't quite happen for him now. Look behind the graphic. Here they come. Van Thor wide into 9. Wants the undercut at 10. And Van Meulen is going to run wide. Here comes the BMW. This is the part of the circuit that plays to its strength. Van Thor is up the inside and Van Meulen is hung out to dry on the outside line. He's trying desperately to get back ahead on the outside line as they come to the end of the back straight. And Van Thor says, no, you don't. Go through the kink. Go through the corner, and this time he's ahead, and that secures the place. Job well done, but he had to work for that.
And Van Meulen might be thinking about him going to come back. So that was hard work by Dries Van Thor, but he made it work. He did touch the back of the Ferrari going into turn 8. Looked like the right front. Remember, those dive plates are diving a bit more on that side than the other. Looks not too bad, actually, in that shot. So he's got the job done, and Van Meulen defended very hard, but not sufficiently successfully.
Right, Bart to Van Thor is the next one to look for. Just over a second and 4 minutes to go. This is on, isn't it? Van Thor for the podium.
So that maybe Bart will be an easier challenge for Dries Van Thor. And now he's cleared the Ferrari, closing down on the Audi directly ahead. So he's got what, just under 3.75 minutes to go. That's this lap and one final lap. So not going to be easy. The gap at the front, by the way, still 7.1 seconds. Looks very comfortable indeed for Timo Boguslavski in the lead.
Yeah, it continues to come down, doesn't it? But as we've been saying, it's enough to preserve. And Jordan Pepper, 7th, keeping Maxime Martin at bay. And he in turn has got Alberto Di Folco, has got Christopher Hauser behind him, and then Mathieu Drudy 10th. But he will lose that to both Ramos and Bird, and possibly also Callum Williams once you put the time penalty on. So we're on lap 36 in this first race of the weekend for Fanatec GT. There is Maxime Martin heading through turn 10. And that's for third. Right now, midway around the lap, Vanthoor has caught. He's closed the second. And way out wide goes Nicholas Bart. Thank you very much, says Dries Vanthoor. Easy peasy. And he's done it. Through for third place.
Yeah, Nicholas Bart just offered it up on a plate. And Dries Vanthoor didn't need to be asked a second time. He just overran onto turn 13, 14. And Dries Vanthoor on it. And that's it. Once he's got ahead, that's a podium position for WRT BMW. They'll be delighted indeed, having come off a very disappointing race, 24 hours of Spa 2 weeks ago.
That's not the same BMW, it's a different one, a new one, after the Vanthoor car was destroyed in that big accident in the night. And that, off the road, is the Lamborghini from the GSM team. Fidel Castillo at the wheel of it. New to the championship, but he's gone exploring the gravel trap, as you can see. So 2 minutes and change remain. Time for one more lap after the one that the leader is on. The gap is back up again, 8 seconds in fact. Boguslavski pulling away from Lapalainen, and the Lamborghini got all sideways and around it went.
And that was a real tank slapper, and nothing can be done about it. But look, he's given it large, coming through the gravel. So he got it pointed in the right direction and kept the thing running and had the momentum and did a good job to get off. Hopefully he didn't drag too much gravel onto the track as the consequence.
Very true. So yeah, good save. As there, heading towards us is Eric de Baar, who is down in 31st place, and Vanthoor getting away from Baar, who is now being caught by Vermeulen. So they were almost together before Vanthoor arrived on the scene and interrupted their fight. Vermeulen has got probably one more lap in which he can think about taking the place. On to his last lap comes Timo Boguslavski. Very accomplished drive. This looking very strong up front. Boguslavski goes through, and the margin that he has got over the Lapalainen Ferrari will be confirmed in a moment when that finally does get to the timing line. It's 7.8 seconds, so Boguslavski is on his way for a win.
Yes, he's pulled away fractionally on that last lap, so that's a very good drive indeed from Boguslavski to consolidate what he was given by Raffaele Marcello, and Lapalainen in second place. And that's a long way. Dries Vanthoor's a further 15 seconds behind that, so it's really now a status quo for the top three.
There's the Gold Cup leading car. It's sixth. Great job this for Aurelien Panis, Alberto Di Folco and the Boutsen VDS team. Thierry Boutsen's squad linking up with the fabled Belgian VDS, Van der Straten family name, and comes then onto the back straight. Sixth overall, and illustrating, if you like, one of the benefits of the Gold Cup, to prove and nurture young talent. Frank Bird leading in silver, but that is Timo Boguslavski out on his own.
Yeah, Frank Bird's managed to pull us. Where's Callan Williams gone? Because he was just under half a second behind, and he's nowhere in sight as far as I can see.
Well, that's Boguslavski, your race leader, who is on his way up towards the end of the race. Not put a wheel wrong in this stint.
No, I think he's done an excellent job under pressure, jumping into the car, as you pointed out, not having driven it this morning, and goes on and gives this another victory for the Acutis ASP Mercedes AMG GT3 team.
Timo Boguslavski, Raffaele Marcello win race one at Misano. A great drive by the Italian and Russian drivers, as there for second place across the line comes Lapalainen. The gap at the flag, 7.4 seconds. And for third, it is going to be Dries Vanthoor then. Great effort, 21st to third. Excellent, excellent effort. Proper racecraft as well. Fourth will be Nicholas Bart. Fifth, Thierry Vermeulen. And Alberto Di Folco, sixth across the line to win gold. Seventh, Jordan Pepper. Eighth, Maxime Martin. Ninth, Christopher Haase. 10th will be Mathieu Drudy on the road. Let's see where the penalty drops him to win in silver. Frank Bird with Jordan Love comes across the line. And then the winning bronze comes home in 13th on the road. That is Miguel Ramos with Enrique Chavez. The second of the silvers should be the Mad Panda Mercedes. Yesisal Manardio and Ezequiel Perez Companc. Waiting for that car to get to the line. The third gold car has just gone through. Cesar Gazo Adamateki. So 2 out of 3 for the Boutsen VDS, as they're getting some air, much needed air into the car, Miguel Ramos. But both he and Enrique Chavez, excellent job to win bronze.
Yeah, no, that car's been really, really strong, particularly with Chavez. But Miguel Ramos did what he was asked to do and brought that car home the winner of his category, but over 13th position overall, so they'll be well pleased. And the next car in the category was Alex Mamalikan in the Porsche, down in 21st position.
So Timur Boguslavski wins by 7.4 seconds, carrying on that good work from Raffaele Marciello. And despite the dramas at turn 1, despite 42 starters, we got through without a safety car.
Amazing, and what I'm even further amazed is that we had 42 cars start this race, and we managed to fit them all in. I thought we were going to see massive traffic jams all around the racetrack, but they managed to spread themselves around the entire 4.2 kilometre circuit. But there is our race-winning car, driven by Timur Boguslavski, coming into the pit lane, and he will be pleased. That was a good effort, a good drive, measured and controlled, and that's what he's there and asked to do.
Indeed so, and that's 2 wins out of 3 races. First, 6th, first. Not a bad list of results for the first 3 races of the season. Incident between Maxime Martin and Jordan Pepper, no investigation necessary, but that was at turn 5. As to Parc Ferme comes the winning Mercedes. Timur Boguslavski will clamber out of the car. And each season that we see Timur, he gets better. And this year, by doing endurance as well as sprint, he's spending more time in the car, and that's only going to help him.
Yeah, the more track time you get, the more mileage you get with your team and with your co-driver. And as much as Raffaele Marciello can coach and assist, ultimately it's down to the hands of Timur Boguslavski to deliver, and that was a good drive from Boguslavski.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember back at Monza, in the opening race at Monza, he made a misjudgment coming into the pits after a contact, and he missed the pit lane. He's regrouped himself, and he must be pleased with today's result.
Well, we'll hear from the winning drivers, Raffaele Marciello and Timur Boguslavski. Victors at Misano are with Gemma.
Lello, as always, a fantastic win. You set that up nicely at the start there, keeping all the drama behind you.
Yeah, it was a good clean race for us. The car was a mega. Timur did really well, and now we try to focus for tomorrow.
Congratulations, well done, Timur. Very quick word from you. Hot, a difficult stint, but you managed to keep a great gap. Well done.
Yeah, I was nervous a bit for the front left tire. Yeah, was overheated. I think that's everyone. Yeah, because we are like at the sauna, so I think it's the hottest round in the GT in this season. So, but yeah, we did a good start of the first race, so yeah, we are happy.
Well done, congratulations.
So Timur Boguslavski walked away to celebrate with his teammates, and a great job done by both drivers and by the team. Again, not as quick as some in the pits. That's perhaps the one area you can see Acodis ASP with a slight deficiency, but I'm only talking 3 seconds against WRT, but it's always been the case, hasn't it, that some WRT pit stops have been quicker than Acodis. Today it didn't really matter because they still had a big gap either side of that pit window. Alberto Di Folco and Aurelian Panis are the winners of the Gold Cup, another victory for the Audi drivers.
That has got to be a great feeling for you, a home win.
Yeah, I'm very happy about all the race, all the stint. He did an amazing jump from P12 to P8, and I just did the job. The car was very good, the pace was perfect, and now we improve even more for tomorrow. P5, P4, we try, man.
The pressure's on for you for tomorrow now to bring it home.
Yeah, no, it's really good. I mean, RB did a mega stint. We ended up P6 overall, P1 in gold, second victory in Gold Cup. So really happy. A big thanks to all the team, and let's continue to push.
Absolutely, congratulations, great effort, boys.
So they are the Gold Cup winners, Alberto Di Folco and Aurelian Panis. But as far as the overall result is concerned, this is it, provisionally. Raffaele Marciello, Timur Boguslavski, the winners from Giacomo Alto and Consuela Balainen, Charles Wirtz and Dries van Thor third. Then Fred Vervisch and Nick Bart ahead of Albert Costa and Thierry Vermeulen's Ferrari, with Aurelian Panis and Alberto Di Folco sixth. The top 10 completed by Franck Pereira and Jordan Pepper's Lamborghini, from Valentino Rossi and Maxime Martin's BMW. Lucas Legere ninth, with help from Christopher Hauser, and Mathieu Drudi and Ricardo Feller were 10th, but they have that 5-second time penalty. I think they were just able, though, to stay ahead, because Callum Williams got ahead of Frank Bird on the last lap, and that delayed the two of them enough to allow that 5 seconds not to affect Mathieu Drudi. 13th, the winning bronze car. That was Enrique Chavez and Miguel Ramos' McLaren, behind the winning silvers of Jordan Love and Frank Bird. 42 of them started, only 40 really, got to the end of a lap without too much damage, and there'll be a bit of work for Sam to do for tomorrow. But a really interesting race, lots of fighting all the way through, a few hard luck stories along the way as well. So tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock, there will be the two-part qualifying session to give us a completely fresh grid with fresh start drivers for race 2. Let's see how our silver winners get on tomorrow. For now, they can celebrate. They are Frank Bird and Jordan Love, and they're with Gemma.
Frank, you just said to me that was like driving a sauna around, pretty much.
Yeah, it was ridiculously hot in there, but team, we did a great job, and finally we got the P1 in silver, so we should have had one at Brands, but we wrote everything right. Jordan had a really good qualifying, a good start, and yeah, just kept it nice and clean to the end, and hopefully the same tomorrow.
Absolutely, and when we spoke at the beginning of the weekend, Jordan, you said you thought the Mercedes would perform well here. You weren't wrong.
Yeah, look, it's a great weekend for us. The team's done a mega job all weekend, so has Frank. So, yeah, we just got to keep it going. We finally put one together, so now we just got to keep this going for the rest of the weekend and the rest of the championship.
Absolutely. Congratulations. Go cool down.
Thank you.
They make it sound so easy, don't they? Yeah, we just need to keep this for the rest of the season, keep winning. So good for Mercedes then. 2 category wins, the overall and the silver falling to Mercedes, with Audi and McLaren taking category victories as well. The car of Jordan Love and Frank Bird, part of the Haupt Racing Team stable. So 2 different teams operating the 2 class-winning Mercedes.
Impressive. Mercedes around here, they've done a very, very good job. And of course, that's a different class. That was finishing overall in 12th position. So they won that category by, what, 4 cars between themselves. And the next up in 16th.
Now, what about our bronze winners? Enrique Chavez and a no doubt very hot Miguel Ramos are with Gemma.
Miguel, I don't even need to ask you how you're feeling. That was the hardest stint, right?
So dead, but I'm so grateful we won finally.
That was a fantastic win. Very well earned. Enrique, you set it up. You stayed out as long as you possibly could, right?
Well, yes. I mean, I was suffering as well in the car. It's super hot, but I mean, we managed to start on pole, keep the position 1 in the longer race, and then Miguel did an amazing job bringing the car home. So happy we finally finished P1.
Congratulations, well done. Go and get a cold shower.
I think he needs a nice bath, actually. Because he is clearly overheating.
I was just thinking people do this for fun. Yeah, Miguel Ramos then, very, very hot. And of course, he had a relatively short stint, only by 8 minutes or so compared to Enrique Chavez, but a great effort by both of them. So they won bronze, and okay, that car dropped to 13th overall, but it's a class win that the 2 drivers are after, and mission accomplished. And I'm very happy Miguel Ramos, but yeah, you've got to do it all over again tomorrow, Miguel. So, as the Misano circuit falls silent for a few moments, let's have a look back at the best bits of race 1. It all began with, on pole position, Raffaele Marciello. He was able to blast away. It was behind where things got leery. Have a look up near the pit wall and look at that white Lamborghini of Loris Spinelli. He tried to move across, made contact with Gilles Magnus, then he got fired across the road himself. Others spun, including Dennis Marshall's Audi. And amazingly, although we lost 3 cars from the race, it could have been a whole lot worse, and we didn't even need the safety car. Charles Wirtz was up and past Jim Pla in the opening part of the race, and that number 32 BMW from 21st on the grid was on an absolute mission, and its race would get better and better as Valentino Rossi was involved in a big push against Lucas Legere in the Audi, even being crowded onto the grass on that very fast back straight. It worked, he gained the place. Gained respect in the process as well. Pit stop window opened, and another very good stop by BMW at WRT allowed Dries Van Voor to move ahead of the championship leading Audi. Then he put a move against number 9 to go up past Alberto Di Folco, and Van Voor was heading further and further up the order. Maxime Martin was busy squabbling with Jordan Pepper and fending off Christopher Hauser as they worked their way through the traffic. Hauser being run up wide onto the curb. Van Voor then made a move against Thierry Vermeulen, just found a gap on the inside line coming off turn 10, and that was enough to enable the BMW to rumble its way by. That was 4th, and then 3rd came when Nicolas Bart ran off the racetrack, coming down towards the dogleg at the end of the lap. So, 3rd for Van Voor, and we're 2nd for Lapalainen and for Altway, and a race win, the 2nd out of 3 races this year for Timo Boguslavski and Raffaele Marciello. And so there looking down the pit straight is, for the moment, a silent circuit, but now the podiums are being made ready. You can see Jerome Policon in the black polo shirt and the shorts nearest the camera. The man behind that code is ASP. So Charles Witz and Dries van Thor for third overall step onto the podium. For second place, Consta Lapalainen and Giacomo Altue, the Italian driver. So big cheer for the Italian driver and the Italian car, and his best result of the season. They got a 5th and an 8th at Brands Hatch. But 3 races done, 2 wins for Timo Boguslavski and Raffaele Marciello. Timo Boguslavski, Raffaele Marciello go to the top step of the podium, and Acodis ASP represented as well as the winning team here at Misano. So well done, Acodis ASP, well done, Raffaele Marciello and Timo Boguslavski, who stand on the top step of the podium, and now trophies will be presented. As there from Daniel Ruderman, the senior manager, worldwide security specialist at AWS. The trophies go to the drivers, to third, to second, and then to the winners. Giacomo Altue, very, very happy indeed, the tall Italian driver. And now they've waited, they're still waiting. The team trophy to Jerome Policon, and then to the winning drivers. Timo Boguslavski takes his winner's trophy with the Misano map built to the trophy, and then Raffaele Marciello takes his victors on the podium. Congratulations, Raffaele Marciello and Timo Boguslavski, winners of race 1 here at Misano. Photographs taken, and champagne for some is to be sprayed to cool down. For others, they just want to get off that podium and get into the t-shirts and the shorts and jump into cold water, and you can't really blame them. Vincent Voss, still with the trademark cap on, stands beneath the podium to cheer his drivers. And well done, Timo Boguslavski and Raffaele Marciello. That win number 2 of the year.
I think the outstanding driver of those 6 drivers actually was from Dries van Thor, who had to fight all his way through to get to that 3rd position. The other 2, 1st and 2nd, sort of had the positions given to them by their co-drivers. Dries van Thor, maybe the driver of the race.
Well, they're the points overall, including endurance. So not sprint alone, that includes the endurance points. So that's why you've got 1 or 2 like Marco Wittmann, Philipp Eng and Nick Yellerly that aren't going to be here this weekend because they only do the endurance. So it means that with doing both elements of the championship, now Raffaele Marciello and Timo Boguslavski move ahead. Mattia Drudi and Riccardo Feller, when you take the 2 championships together, slip to 4th, but it will be interesting to see when the sprint points are worked, exactly where that's going to put them after today's race. So we've been saying about Timo Boguslavski doing lots of mileage. It's working, leads the overall championship. The next drivers are on the podium in gold, where for the 3rd place team, Cesar Galzo and Adam Enteke are there. For 2nd place, Nicholas Cruton and Callum Williams come to the podium. And then the Gold Cup winners are Aurelian Panis and Alberto Di Folco. Boots and VDS is represented. The Gold Cup winners at Misano, Aurelian Panis and Alberto Di Folco. They head to the top step of the podium, and for the Belgian team, they will be the Belgian national anthem. So a class win for Alberto Di Folco and Aurelian Panis. That is a 2nd win of the season. Great racing today, more to come tomorrow. We'll see you then for that. For now, from Gemma Scott, John Watson and David Addison, it's goodbye from Misano.